So many organizations are operating, trying to take care of so many things, there's a sense of getting overwhelmed. Well, I want you to be able to be laser focused on the most important thing, and then deciding, this is what I'm going to make sure I'm going to advance on first, that I would suffer other things to make sure this one thing gets done. Welcome to the Leveraging Success Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Gerhardt. Every time that we're together, I want to help you work less, make more, and with the margin that you start to store up, you're going to use that to be an incredible husband, wife, parent, and then on top of all of that, use it to be incredible in the kingdom mission that God has you on. Every time that we're together, we're working towards that goal. Now, when we talk about work less and make more, maybe that's something that you've wondered, how do I get that implemented? And when you hear even the work less, maybe you sort of pull back from that and think to yourself, okay, Jeff, that's too much, or I'm not really comfortable with the thought of working less. Now, just concentrate for a moment on the fact that as a high-performing individual, a successful career man or woman, what you've been able to accomplish has come because of the high motor that's inside of you to achieve, and you've built that. And so we're not looking to stop using this capacity and turn it off and find more time to laze around, but rather to say that you could leverage it to do many things, that high motor could find leverage so that the only thing that you do is the thing that your unique capabilities were meant to do. You see, too often, great leaders find themselves tied up in all sorts of affairs, meetings, needs that someone else is asking them to be a part of, or inside of them they think, I have to do this, or I'm the only person that can do this, or I'm the best person that can do this. And so they get themselves tied up in all sorts of what really ends up being micromanagement or over-involvement in their businesses. But leadership multiplies. Leadership brings more people along with and says, I'm going to stand you up. I'm going to give you responsibility. I'm going to create systems and ways with which this company, imagine this, could be self-running. Can you imagine your organization not needing you for anything but your genius? Take, for instance, the thought of a comedian or a musician, right? I think I used this concept when I spoke about it last week in last week's episode. But the comedian comes to the theater and they didn't sell the tickets, the concessions, the shirts. They're not running the light and the sound. They're not making sure people are in their seats. None of that. They come, they drop gold, and they get out of there again. Okay, and so what if your business was like that, to where you walk in and everything else is a running machine, and you're not being required to operate every moment of this, but rather you're delivering your part. Now, that doesn't mean that you're unengaged, uninvolved. No. In fact, you're setting a culture, a tone, process, systems, expectations that all comes through your leadership. And if you could get your leverage to where you didn't have to be there all the time. You just dropped your gold and you were out of there again. You performed like an owner, a board member, or a CEO that's expecting and enabling others to operate without you. Then you've got margin. And that margin can be applied to the mission that God made you for. You see, the reason that I'm speaking to you and that I'm looking for you is that I believe that the greatest capability in the kingdom has been pent up in pews and churches where people have just outsourced the missions of the kingdom to the guy that's on stage on Sunday morning and looking to them to say, well, it's your job and I'm just here to pay for everything to make your job go, and how come it's not working? Now, I don't imagine your mindset is in that realm, but I think at the end of the day, you may not believe that God's got a mission for you. Now, I'm not going to tackle how you're going to find that mission. We'll talk about that in other episodes, and you can go back to other episodes that I've talked about before to start to dive into why did God make you for such a time as this? And has all of that capability that you've been able to create been only used in your career? What if that capability that you've got could be used spectacularly in a kingdom purpose? And that if you kept your career under control, that it provided for you, and that your income streams and your use of your professional capabilities, they didn't erode. They just continued to be focused on the thing that only you can do, that you would have margin time to be at every baseball game, ballet, and every gathering that your family has, that you would be intentionally pursuing your spouse, that you would be thinking of ways with which that you'd be enriching an extraordinary family. On top of that, even more important but exciting is to think of how all of that could add up to fruit, kingdom fruit that'll last forever. And so being after a mission for Christ is not something that's left to the scraps of Sunday, but rather to be integrated into our every waking moment of thinking about how can we generate fruit. So I'm going to bring out one of my favorite books in just a minute and talk to you about some of my journey on how I got here and what's some of the operating system that I'm using to build self-running organizations. Hey, but here we are. It's the fall. And that means that football has started, right? Football in the fall is a main focus. And of course, here just recently, college football started, the NFL started, and the games are running again. And it's incredible, just the amount of focus that a large portion of the United States goes into this time of year. In fact, my son said it during Thursday night football. He said, "Oh my gosh, does this mean that our weekends are going to be spent doing this until the end of the year?" And yeah, it's one of those things where you start to see football show up and all of a sudden, like a fly to the light, we start to see those things. Here's my point with it, is that when we're looking at something that we care about, we invest in it. Maybe you're buying subscriptions, tickets, going to events, and inviting people to come with you. And so all of that comes from passion. And passion is a faithful source for you. Now, when I'm talking to you about taking on kingdom works, so much of the kingdom space has been left to obligation or duty. Maybe volunteerism, sort of like you tugged on my heart. Yes, of course I love Jesus. I want to be involved in something in the kingdom, but how much do you need of me? This is tax-based mindset, right? Which is, what's the minimum I can do to make sure that I'm in a good relationship with God above, and we'll be in a good exchange of, I'll serve you, you'll give me health, I'll serve you, and you're going to provide me wealth. Wrong mindset, by the way. But often this is our belief that somehow like this work is some sort of trade-off deal with God, imagining that we can do some sort of deed exchange with God. And that is not the God of the Bible, right? The God of the Bible is seeking to make his home here. He's seeking to make his home on earth. And today he makes his home in those with whom have said yes to him. And so we who follow Christ, that have him residing inside of us now, are excited about how can I live as passionate as I am about the most fun subjects, whether it's NFL football, college football, anything that you care a lot about, and to have that kind of enthusiasm that makes me cheer, get angry, get excited, throw my hands in the air, and invite people to come do what I'm doing. That's the kind of passion that we want to be after. And so every time that we're doing this podcast, or any time that you would be a part of the master's program and what we do inside of Priority Living, you would be having an opportunity to build something that enables passion and actually stokes it so that it becomes nearly unrestrainable. It's so exciting in you, you can't imagine doing anything else. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want you to imagine for, is to have a passion source that just makes you so excited. Your focus goes towards your mission. Your focus is always about fruit. You're gathering more people to come together to do more of that. And your whole life orients towards eternity and walking with God. All right. I told you I'm going to tell you about a book, because getting after this process of a self-running company and to be able to get your freedom so that you can work less and make more, and raise your bill rate, make it so that the amount of time that you work creates the most with the least, and creating margin of time for freedom to be in your family, creating fruit, and taking on opportunities that God would say, hey, you have something special I created in you. I want to use that for my purposes. All right, this is the book. It meant a lot to me. Here's the story. It was back in, I'm going to say, about 2014 timeframe, that a good friend of mine who was my pastor at the time, Pastor John Reed in Southern California, John brought me this book. It's called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. And I don't know why he gave me this book and his reasons. For me, it was providential, because this book changed everything. And for me, you always know the books that I love, I've written in and annotated, and this is one that's got some marks in it for sure, because it's such an amazing book. Now, let me explain why The Advantage is such an important book to me, and why I think you should read it if you haven't ever before. Is that most organizations, businesses, ministries, doesn't matter, any organization, they rely on their smarts to get them there. And so in a business or ministry or nonprofit sense, whatever you went to college for, or you've studied for, you've created a profession for, you've become smart in the execution of that business. And so maybe it's sales or marketing or finance or seminary or IT or HR, any function that an organization would have. Maybe that is what you studied, but whichever subject it is that has made you very capable and qualified to be in that organization, that's what most organizations rely on. And so they think that their results are simply a factor of how fast can we do it and how smart can we be. If we can get the speed and the smarts right, our results will work. But that's not the way organizations work. There's a secret multiplier or tax that not many people think about, and that is an organization's health. Now, health is either going to be a multiplier of your results, or it's going to be a tax on it. So if you're thinking about that as an equation, your results equal your speed times your smarts times your health. Now, what is health? Well, health is having low confusion, high clarity, low turnover, high morale, Well, how do you get a good culture like that? Is it just a thing of luck where I was just lucky enough to be able to hire the right people? And I want to tell you the answer is no. And this is the point of the advantage. In fact, it's subtitled here in this. It says why organizational health trumps everything else in business. And it's true. It's as Lencioni talks about it and says that it's really probably the last great advantage that an organization can take. But getting out of that mindset of all of this is luck and I'm just trying to find the right people, and when I find the right people, I just got to hang on to them. And yes, so we want to retain the right people, but I want to foster a culture of clarity, because if I create clarity and create health through my leadership, we're going to be able to execute without me having to declare every answer, make every decision. In fact, because the clarity is so easily understood, and it's not something printed on a wall. In fact, I remember this early on when I started studying this, is that the moment you print your clarity or your mission, your vision, or any of that kind of stuff, it dies there. It literally dies on the wall. It dies on the mug or the t-shirt, whatever. I want you to think of this as something that lives on your lips and in your actions all the time. And the way that the leader makes this all happen is through meetings. Now, it's not only through meetings, but meetings are the primary playing field with which we create clarity and we deliver it. Now, I want to make sure that the clarity is coming out of my lips. It's on the front of every email, inside of every PowerPoint or slide deck that I'm showing. Whenever I'm standing up in front of people, or I'm sending digital communications of any sort, I want it to be saturated with my clarity. And if that clarity is built, then it makes it so that throughout the organization, no matter how many layers or how many people, it has the ability to quickly get to the answer on its own. It understands the what because it understood the why. If your whole organization understands the why, then the what is just simple. It's what you execute to. So this is why clarity is so important and why I recommend this book. Now, I've got a two-part approach to this, and one is to say, yes, I want you to build clarity into every one of the organizations that you lead. If it's the business that you lead, your family, multiple businesses, multiple organizations, ministries, nonprofits, insist on clarity being built. One side of this. The other side of this is the other angle that we take in the master's program. And that's that we tell you that you are the CEO of yourself. You are the CEO of Me Incorporated. And with that, you have 4 staff members: your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit. Now, all 4 of those staff members, they can have different understandings of reality. They have a culture. And if you have not nurtured the culture of those 4 things, frankly, the 4 of them can have different answers to the same question. Your body may say one thing that your spirit is completely against, right? This is the war of my flesh and spirit happening, right? And so how do I make sure that all 4 of those staff members that work for Me Inc. are operating with the healthiest, high-performing culture? It's the same process that you lead your business with. And the more that I've got clarity in me and Me Inc., and the more clarity I provide into the organizations that I have leadership, the more they operate without me having to have my hand in everything. that there's more delegation, more release of authority, more momentum to stay in flexibility and allowing people to decide on their own without so much rigidity of so much policies and procedures and institutionalism and all of that comes with freezing organizations. And I don't want you to be frozen. I think that we get frozen when we get into over-engineering our religious experience with Christ and the Bible, and we've boxed him up so much that we've lost curiosity, right? And now I teach this in all of my coaching, is that there are pendulums that swing wildly from one extreme to the other. And aren't we seeing that in our culture today? But these pendulums that swing need to be plumb lines that leadership supports healthy tension. And the healthy tension that we're working towards here is the place where flexibility and stability are at their zenith, at their height. So the flexibility that comes from me creating clarity allows for people to decide. But we have stability in understanding the clarity itself. The clarity answers the questions to some important things. Now, I want to give you these 6 questions with which you're going to see if you read The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, which I think you should. But these 6 questions are critical, and you can use them in the Me Inc. or the organizations that you lead. Here are the 6 questions for you. Number 1, why do we exist? Now, this existential question is really important, and it really connects to Start With Why by Simon Sinek. If you were to do your why and get a purpose statement, you're trying to answer the question to what would the world be missing if our organization didn't exist? What gift do we bring to this world if that everyone's counting on, that's uniquely us, and it's our strength? I want you to be able to think about that and work out a why statement. And a good why statement will say to do something, so result. So thinking about why do we exist helps us to understand this is what motivates us. This is our real reason for existence. Let me give you my why statement. I help leaders and teams expand their dreams and believe them so that they can be and change the world for Christ. This is my why statement. Okay, so that's the first question. Why do we exist? Number 2, how do we behave? Now, the old way that this was asked, it was something along the lines of, what are your values? And I think that that's been overused. So when we think about behaviors, what you're simply trying to say are, what are the behaviors that you want to be your brand, that you're so married to, that you love so much, that you would be willing to take risks to use them, or that you would turn down really lucrative business to protect them. These values, they need to exist today. They're not aspirational. They really need to be something that you're willing to die for. They're a part of you. And so you want to find these anchors, these 3 anchors. And the 3 that I have for me are: 1, listen well. I want to always be very good at listening. 2, be insightful and wise. 3, believe beyond what's seen. I have a core belief that I do not allow what I see to be what I believe. And so I really work hard in thinking and always valuing my belief past what I see. Second question then is, how do we behave? What do we want said about us when we walk in the room? All right, let's go to the third question. What do we do? Now, you may think that that's straightforward. In a team setting, I can't tell you how many times I've had this question, and someone will say, we do blank, and someone across the table will say, what? No, we don't. We haven't done that in years, or we talked about that and we're not doing that. being clear on what we do helps us to focus in on that, and it actually implicitly implies the things that we don't do. So being able to say out loud what you do, what we do, helps us to be very clear on what business we're in and what we operate in and do. And this also protects from us taking anything on that is more than what we do. Now, I'm through the third of the 6 questions. Let me take a break right here to tell you something that's important, is that getting the answers to all 6 of these questions is a process of building something that's living and breathing. It's something that you want to have you want to review these answers at least once a year, as much as 4 times a year. And when you're looking at these questions, you understand that any organization is an organism. And organisms are living and they react to the world around them. And you're not done growing, and your business isn't done growing, and the market's going to continue to change. So continued fine tweaking. Now, I'm not talking that you're going to look at these 6 questions and then all of a sudden you're going to come up with 6 wildly different answers. But you will continue to refine them as you respond to who you are as a living organism. So here in the middle, just imagine that if you're getting these 6 questions built with answers, you're going to look at this at least once a year. Perhaps between Christmas and New Year's is a great time to be doing some reflection, or during vacation sometime in the summertime. At least once a year, as much as 4 times a year. The more clarity that you have in Me Inc., the more clarity your organization has, the stronger it's going to be. Let's keep going. Here's question number 4. How will we win, or how will we succeed? Now, being clear on this is to say that you know the 1 to 3 things that you do that when you do them, the outcomes bring success. And so I know what that's like in my business, and I know what that's like in me personally. And you want to start to ask yourself, okay, what are the things that we do? What are the things that I do that when I do them as habits or habitually, that are part of our routines, when we do them, we get success? And if I can identify those things, then I'm going to go deep on those things and just decide that this is the way that we're going to operate. Even if that might be inconvenient, we're going to be focused on this success strategy that's going to be the answer to how will we succeed? What are the ways that we operate that provide regular success? And maybe they're known in your organization or within you, but declaring them helps you to seal them and say, we're going to anchor here until we found something more extravagant, interesting, or important for us to go after. All right, that's the 4th question. Here is the 5th one. The question is, what's most important right now? Now, I asked this question of myself and an organization I lead because it's very simple. If everything's important, nothing's important. And so many organizations are operating, trying to take care of so many things, there's a sense of getting overwhelmed. Well, I want you to be able to be laser focused on the most important thing, and then deciding, this is what I'm going to make sure I'm going to advance on first, that I would suffer other things to make sure this one thing gets done. Question number 6, who must do what to make this most important thing happen? Now, your mindset as a leader is always thinking, who can help me? Who can help me? Who can help me? And if you're really building a self-running company, you're thinking, I'm raising people up. So instead of deciding this most important thing, I'm the critical element in it. No, I'm going to start to say, who can I ask to take on pieces of this, raise up leadership, take on more? And as I delegate, I'm thinking I might have a key part in this, but only if it's really using the best of me. So who must do what to make that most important thing happen? If you know the answers to those 6 questions and you are constantly communicating them and you're constantly ruminating on them for Me Inc. and the organizations you lead, you're going to see your leadership is going to scale many times over. You're going to get more margin to do the things that are important. Hey, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's one that I could have with leaders over and over again because I'm really passionate about it. It impacted me. After I got this book, I was able to reach out to Patrick Lencioni's organization, the Table Group, and I was able to engage them, and we had an amazing success in the last corporate company that I worked with as a result of getting healthier. And so going after this is important because we're looking for that margin. Hey, thanks so much for joining me today on another episode of Leveraging Success. I'm so glad that you're here with me. I'd love for you to continue on this journey with me, so please follow the podcast or subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. I'd also love your feedback, so please make sure to leave a comment or a review. Also, you can email me at jeff@leveragingsuccesspodcast.com to tell me what you think or give me some questions you'd love for me to field here live on this show. Finally, an offer for you. There's a link in the comments to our Life Mastery Summit. The Life Mastery Summit is a taste of the Masters program and a way with which you can join and experience a portion of this and consider that God has more for you. How would you go about taking that on? Hey, I'm so glad to be with you today, working less, making more, and taking that gain to be incredible and having an impactful life that will matter forever. I'm your host, Jeff Gerhardt. Until next time, God bless you.